So now that we've kind of gone through the official syllabus, I just kind of want to go through um, the slides real quick. So here's some of that information about myself. There you go, Pleasanton. There you go. You want to read uh, rate my professor reviews of me. These are the prerequisite courses we talked about in the last video. 322, 323, 356, and 370 are required. These are the programs that I talked about. So just kind of reiterating here. So you need to have a coding program. I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code. There's a link to it in the module. Um, Adobe programs if you want to use Adobe. So like a photo editor, a vector editor, something like that. Figma, you specifically need to have. We're going to be learning that in terms of prototyping, uh, a file transfer protocol program. I'm using FileZilla. You're welcome to use your own if you want. You need an account with Infinity Free, which I showed you guys earlier. Some sort of application to test your web development files or HTML, CSS. I recommend Chrome or Firefox, and then a P5JS account. Like I said in the last video, this is when we get to the second part of the course where we are going to be doing programming. Okay. Oops. I just wanted to show you, well, before we do that, I just want to talk about some of the services too, by the way. We talked about the Disability Program and Resource Center, the Safe Place, psychological counseling. So there's information there. It's also in the module for today. So here's like the files, here are the videos. If you scroll all the way down under San Francisco University links, I have them here as well for you. Okay. Just be aware of that. All right. So I wanted to talk a little more about really what we're doing in this class and kind of give you an idea of what kind of projects and things you're going to be learning. So this is it's interaction, but we're learning web development, which means we're going to be learning about how to write web pages, which is learning hypertext markup language, also known as HTML. So we're actually starting that on Wednesday, and we'll be doing that for a couple of weeks, and then we'll get into cascading style sheets, also known as CSS. Okay. CSS is a visual structuring languages. This is kind of the design aspect of coding, which lets us do things like colors and typography and things like that. We're also going to kind of learn like best practices in writing code for a web page, how to, make interesting structures and that kind of thing. Then you guys are going to have your first project. In your first project, you're going to, utilize all the skills I taught you in HTML, CSS, and you're going to make kind of a choose your own adventure website, okay? Where there's a story, and then sometimes in the story, it kind of branches out, and you can have different choices. So this is interactive. People click, they go to the next page. I'm going to show you some examples. You can either go from the slides here, or if you're on the module, you can go here. So I'm going to show you guys some examples. This is from the last time I taught the course, which was last spring. So this is combination of text, images, interactive buttons. Click, and then, there's choices I can make. Oh no, I'm stuck in the maze. Okay. So, the fonts that we're using, colors, the imagery, all of this is stuff I'm going to teach you guys. Here's another one where notice how I'm getting like these kind of, these are called hover effects, where it's like changing the visual style when I'm using my mouse. So there's like imagery, there's text, there's images. So we're building kind of a fun interactive experience here. Here's another one. The student kind of made kind of a horror types interactive game. Okay. So that's the first major project. Then we're going to kind of leave HTML, web development away for a while, and we're going to talk about programming basics. So you're gonna learn programming concepts, very basic ones like variables and functions, if statements, and that kind of stuff. We're going to specifically use P5.js. Okay. P5.js is a JavaScript library, and we'll talk more about that later. And you're going to learn how to implement logic into HTML CSS. So we can add JavaScript into an existing HTML CSS web page. Okay. So your second project is you guys are going to build an interactive experience. So like when someone clicks their mouse or they, hit a key on their keyboard, something occurs. All right. And not only that, we plan it out. We get into some pre-production aspects like we talk about wireframing and style tiles and things like that. So for instance, here's this student. She has here what we refer to as a flow chart. She's wireframing the project, and then this is what's called a style tile. She kind of lists out the colors and typography and things like that. And then this is her actual project. So it's built with HTML CSS, but it also has JavaScript. So for instance, if I click on this, it changes this photo from one photo to a next. And if I click again, it cycles through it. Okay. Here's another example. So this person built a sort of mini music player playback. So it has buttons here. If I hit, it plays the song. If I hit it again, it pauses it. I think I can switch songs. Maybe not. Maybe I lied, but I can. Okay. So like part of this is the visual style, with HTML CSS, but there's also a programming aspect of like interactive buttons and things like that. Here's another one where the student, every time you click, it kind of randomizes photos as you get like random photos appearing. Whee! Okay. Your last assignment, we kind of we'll get back into sort of web development. We'll learn about how to do organization and structuring with web development. So we're going to learn what are called CSS layout, like CSS floats and CSS positioning. We'll also talk about CSS grids and CSS flexbox. Okay. So we'll talk about that. These are sort of advanced ways of dealing with web. We're also going to talk about user experience, what that is, also referred to as UX. This has to do with like what we call process, which is like planning out, not just, oh, I'm going to draw it this way because I feel like it, but working with a client, researching ideas, using the research and the information you gathered in your design process. In this case, it's coming from what's the word I'm looking for? It's coming from a web design point of view as opposed to like an app or a game or something. But thinking about what does the user want and implementing that. What you guys are going to do is you're going to plan out a website and you're going to do some research for it. So you're going to research with a client, get some ideas, implement those ideas using HTML and CSS and possibly JavaScript. So I just want to show you guys some examples of things people did. So here is like, they come up with research. This is what we call a wireframe. And then they have their actual working website. So this is built with HTML and CSS. Okay. This is one called Needle and Dead Company. So it's like I think it's like a small kind of, artisan kind of fabric store kind of thing. So like we'll talk about design briefs and research. These are like wireframes, style tiles, and then they have their actual working website here. So that's layout, like columns and things like that. Okay. So hopefully that gives you kind of an idea of what we're going to be doing in this course. Okay. We'll be talking about interaction design. We're kind of pointing it in a what's the word? In a web development kind of format here. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's kind of it, I think. Talked about that, talked about that, talked about that. All right, in the last video, I'm going to talk about your homework and what to expect for the rest of the week, okay?